Blackstone boys, you burn in fire, my one desire, believe, Taqiyya, I want Sharia between our two worlds apart. Allah sealed up your heart. My ruqya is I want Sharia. Wallahi, ain't nothing but some jizya. Wallahi, ain't nothing but some dawah. Wallahi, it's all about Bismillah. I want Sharia. You want hellfire. It's Shaitan's desire. Yes, you know it's too late when we have the caliphate. Wallahi, ain't nothing but some jizya. Wallahi, ain't nothing but some dawah. Wallahi, it's all about Bismillah. I want Sharia. Now I can see the world falling apart from the way that it used to be. Yeah. No matter the future, I want you to know that Allah had cursed thee. Yeah. You will burn in fire. It's Allah's desire. Allahu Akbar. Don't be a namaste, nothing but some jizya. Wallahi, ain't nothing but some dawah. Wallahi, it's all about Bismillah. I want Sharia. Wallahi, ain't nothing but some jizya. Wallahi, ain't nothing but some dawah. Wallahi, it's all about Bismillah. I want Sharia. Wallahi, ain't nothing but some jizya. Wallahi, ain't nothing but some dawah. Wallahi, it's all about Bismillah. I want Sharia because I want Sharia.
Hello. For anybody that's confused, this is not a Dava channel. This is very much anti-Dava channel, and this was supposed to be a parody, but I can now understand why people were confused first time I played this. Hello.
Hi, Kafir Night. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
So,
good, but the
thank you
recent
for the
events,
music. Thank you for the music.
the recent events have been a little bit difficult, but
Yeah.
that's the least I can say.
Yeah, let's talk about the recent events. Everybody's talking about it, and I I wanna focus on today. What I wanna focus on is all the Muslims in the West that have a problem denouncing Hamas, all the leaders, and all this false sequence over here. So, I will just say that I hope that Israel retaliates with relentlessness and get their justified revenge. Right now, I cannot go too harsh on things here, but my thumbnail was the burned down mosque, as we saw. I do not really have empathy for terrorist sympathizer at the moment. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to defend such acts that happened, and this is clearly the behavior of an organization that doesn't want peace, long-term peace with. You cannot treat a people like this and at the same time envision a long-term coexistence or a two-state solution. It shows like it's criminal. It's beyond attacking like armed soldiers, only IDF soldiers. It's attacking civilians, raping, murdering in a most inhumane way. So this clearly showcased their will, and sorry for the Palestinians, but they chose to be represented by this kind of organization that doesn't want peace or doesn't respect any, doesn't value any human life. So how can you expect them to have to share the same values and to look for a middle ground? Clearly, they're just using the Palestinians as human shield, and at the same time complaining about the victims. So it doesn't make sense to me, and don't understand the pro-Pali position at all.
That's odd. Yeah, I agree with you. It's just I said hello in the comment section. It says an error had occurred. That's odd.
Ah, it's me. I send it.
No, 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 no. I said hello. Oh, oh, that's odd. In the comment section, right? Like when I. Anyway, if I think Siddharth is here. I think this is our friend. The StreamYard link should be up there for you if you want to join us. If you click that, if you want to join us. But I don't know why it says I cannot. That's odd. Okay, as long as people can still see me and hear me. Yeah. Last time we spoke, and it was a nice talk. It was taken down because I played stuff that wasn't there was a third party content. Um, Now I'm pretty sure it's because they didn't like the amazing no, not that what's it called again? Atheism is unstoppable or demonstration. They didn't like that video. I'm pretty sure that's why it got taken down. So and then I made another live, but that one sucked to be honest. I was not happy with that, so I just took it out myself. But yeah, um, let's hope that this time we will be able to speak without YouTube, going and striking us down again. Yeah, you said that um, you cannot be merciful towards people who embrace terrorism. However, uh, I feel like I'm living in a loop where every look. First off, I just gotta say that yes, I very much agree with Israel and their very firm stance they have against Gaza right now. Uh, they needs to do what is necessary, and it's been a long time coming. And all the crocodile tears from Palestinian supporters all over the world, uh, this is Muslim and non-Muslim alike, means nothing. They, it's like you have a sickness growing and you need to root it out. Now, the problem here I have is the every terror attack that happens in the world, I hope to myself that finally now maybe people will realize that this is because of Islam. This is not just a isolated incident where some people just misunderstood the religion and shouted Allahu Akbar to smear Islam as a bad religion. Right? I mean, the comparison between ISIS and Hamas is uncanny. We've seen flags of ISIS under Hamas banner, and all the all the criminals around the world, all the criminal organizations are supporting of them. This is uh, Islam, uh, Islamic and non-Islamic organizations alike, but mostly, of course, Islamic organizations. Uh, but people still don't want to make the connection. They say, no, we will trust our newfound allies in the Arab world, and we will happily accept people who say we condemn this terror act in the name of Islam. So, what's your thought of that?
It's still difficult to make people realize it's linked to the ideology and Islam, but I think the most exposing thing for what happened for Islam is that mainstream moderate people made gatherings, pro-Palestinian gathering right after the Hamas attacks. So that means that even the people well integrated, the moderate people, moderate Muslims, they were part of those celebrations. So you're not going to tell me that people who are like right now working in the West and living perfectly from outside normal lives, now they became suspects as well. So what's the common factor? It's just Islam. So when I used to be a Sunni moderate, it was a no-brainer for us. Like the anything that was bad, it was because of the Jews, and especially they were wishing the destruction of Israel in the mainstream media for Sunni Muslims, like Al Jazeera. So any Arabic channel was just propagating that mindset. So um, when will people realize that doesn't change anything? It's just the Islamic background gives that justification of hating the Jews, and so many sheikhs and mullahs and even on the Sunni side as well, they say, well, we hate the Jews by definition, even if there was no Middle Eastern conflict. This is just showcasing the worst face of the Islamic anti-Semitism. But even if there was no Israel and no Palestine conflict, they would still want to eradicate the Jews everywhere. So it's clear they're being clear, and still people don't get it. So that's I can't wrap my mind around this.
I think it's a reluctance of wanting to accept that people have made bad choices in the past, and they have to rethink um, what they know in the world. So, uh, look, it's a good thing that yes, indeed, there are some uh, in the Middle East, some leaders in the Middle East that will condemn Hamas, right? Uh, However, the majority of Muslims in the West who live in the civilized world, right, uh, who who are uh, immigrants from the Middle East, and especially the Dawa people, those who spread Islam, are very much uh, for the support of Hamas and Palestine. They are all very much supportive of them and not supporting of Israel at all. Uh, so it's like a drop in the ocean, right? And you want those rings to expand so vastly that every Muslim gets affected by this one one guy who will denounce Hamas. Let's say uh, it doesn't work that way. Uh, there was one guy. Uh, he's the prime minister of Scotland. Uh, not prime minister. He's a Muslim, right? I think maybe he's a prime minister. Um, yeah, he's a Muslim. He's the first Muslim, and he actually condemned the attack of Hamas, but after he did that after um, Israel started bombing Palestine, and he started to fear for his his mother and father-in-law, something like that, his family who lived in Gaza. Before that, it was silence, and that's funny because that's always how it is. Uh, it is silence or or somehow a form of justification of horror, and then coming back and saying once their enemy retaliates, coming back and acting victims and saying, well, yes, it was bad. I condemn terrorism, and I condemn civilians dying on both sides. Uh, I wish it wouldn't happen, but I'm very worried about what's going on in Gaza right now. Right? That's usually their mo. So what's to respond to somebody like that? I wonder.
Someone who's acting neutral, like in the
Yeah,
surface.
yeah.
um I don't know. I came across people saying, "Oh, it's out of desperation. Those people have no other way." But when you're desperate to have just a piece of land and a peaceful situation, you don't make crimes like this. I mean, it's uh, what to respond to that. I mean, those people are completely brainwashed. It's hard to find where, like, each person has her or his weak spot, and unless you know the person very well, how to approach things. And I came across also people saying, "Oh, it's no big deal. Most Arab neighbors of Arab countries around Israel have quite good relationship with it, and but that doesn't change that the population inside believes that they have to destroy the Jews, and are actually sending money, and they don't care where the money goes. They just want to help their Muslim brothers, and they're still supporting, even if it's not an official country way, governmental way, diplomatic way. It's still money that goes directly to those organizations. So um, it's, I don't know what to answer, um, except
I
saying,
mean, I mean, the first thing in my mind, of course, when people try to say things like, "Oh, you don't care about the poor Palestinian," is to go fuck themselves. But I guess that's that's not really a productive
diplomatic.
answer. Yeah.
And you wonder why you blocked from everywhere. Oh
Well,
yeah,
that's
that's
funny
true.
because, like, all these people going around and saying "Free Palestine," and showing support of Hamas, saying very harsh things, showing the footage of that's released by Hamas to strike fear in the enemy, right? Very much an Islamic concept. Uh, they, they seem to not get targeted by anybody. They seem like they just keep going. Nobody's like trying to say that, hey, stop supporting terrorism, or we'll make sure that you're not welcome in our spaces. But
Yeah, because they have that narrative, that very Hollywood-like narrative, to say we are on the side of the smallest, the poorest, and the most insignificant form of life. But it has to they had to self-defense, like, first. In 75 years of Israel existence, like, if there was a solution that would fit both, and if it was a real effort to make peace and to stop that, they, at least it would have happened in 75 years. But all the narrative, when it's coming either from Muslims or non-Muslim, but those people who are kind of woke, kind of, they want to be edgy and support the Palestinians because they seem like the little people But what to answer to that is to say, well, they're not the poor people. You guys are 2 billion Muslims, major countries with many resources, countries near Palestine, and still you are failing. That's why I answer most of the time, like, you think that the big guy is Israel there, and you like to defend the smallest part of the conflict, which seem to be the Palestinians in their narrative, but they're just restricting everything to just the Gaza Strip. And no, it's more than that behind. It's it's a worldwide, it's a majority on Earth. It's 2 billion people, mashallah. So the big guy is the Muslim nation, is the people that are so many, but at the same time so bad at defending their brothers, Uyghur or Rohingyas, or I just stressed on the point that they're failing, even though they're a majority with many resources. They are incapable to defend, and they're obsessed with conflict. So that makes sense. When you have Muslims, they're most likely killed by another Muslim. That says it all. Like, it's not an ideology of peace. So let alone with Jews, when they have a border with the Jews. So I, I just tell them that they are lame, in fact, because that touches them in their pride. And yeah, if you guys are struggling with 0.02 Jews, part of the population is very small, as a majority of 2 billion strong people, then there's something that's not working. I mean, you're incapable of anything. So that makes them really angry most of the time. That's reality.
Um, yeah, true. But I think right now, when uh, when I show that uh, when I show them, I think because sarcasm or irony has not been invented in the Islamic world. When I show them exactly how vile they are when they celebrate dead innocent children and women uh, and bystanders, when they celebrate their death, shouting Allahu Akbar, and then I say stuff like, uh, when they cry when their children uh, is stuck under the rubble after Israeli hits them. When I say stuff like, "Where's your Allah now?" And mocking them, then they go outrage. They just don't get
Exactly.
it. Yeah, they just don't get it. And let me say this, right? Uh, I do understand that, yes, it's a horrible thing when you're at war and you get hit by a rocket and your children gets hit by it, and innocent, so-called, I would say so-called innocent, right? Because yeah, I'm gonna get to that, but so-called innocent people gets hurt by them. I can understand that there's a, like, you are kind of fueling the fire of this hatred. However, all right, when the Allies struck the Nazis, it don't tell me that somehow, and yes, I comparing Palestine and Gaza to the Nazis. Uh, I think it's a fair comparison. And when the Allies struck the Nazis, it wasn't really uh, people people complaining about, well, who are the real Nazis and who are the victims here, right? Because they were all very much supporting of Nazis. The Nazis were making sure that people who were against uh, their 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 leadership will be taken care of, just like Hamas does in Gaza. I heard, I'm not really sure about this, but I heard that about two months ago there was an uprising by the Palestinians in the Gaza who were against Hamas, and they were silenced. Um, doesn't surprise me. Now again, most people are actually for Hamas, in Gaza. I mean, not just in Gaza. I mean, just look at in our countries how many Palestinian supporters there are, Hamas supporters there are, even non-Palestinians, Muslims and lefties who are supporting of Hamas. So when you have a community, all of them, uh, and a large spectrum here, very much shouting Allahu Akbar while Hamas is killing innocent people. And I've seen footage of little children being uplifted on shoulders of their parents, or I think adults, and holding a Kalashnikov as this and shouting Allahu Akbar, right? If these children, sorry to say, but they have shitty parents. It's not their fault that their parents are shitty, but they have shitty parents. And their parents' responsibility is to make sure that when they know that there's retaliation coming, to take the children into safety. They don't want to do that because they want to fuel this Hollywood bullshit of showing everybody how terrible Israel is for bombing their children. Even though Israel tells everybody, I mean, flyers going around uh, over Gaza saying, "Get out! We're gonna nuke the shit out of you." Well, figuratively, no nukes have been used, but we're gonna bomb this area. Get out! And of course, there might be some truth to this that Hamas is blocking the human corridor. However, you will still, as a parent, try to make sure that your children are safe and not in the line of fire, and hoping that they will die a shaheed in the holy war against Israel, and just be uh, uh, a tool for the propaganda machine, which is very much the case right now. So the responsibility of the children, that Palestinian children, does not lie on Israel. It lies on the Palestinians and Hamas.
They're using children, yeah, from the beginning, and it's a very vicious cycle, because I remember in anti-Semitic Islamic gatherings in any Arab country, they will often use children to say a speech against the Jews, for example, to call for the emotional response among the population. They will put kids in the front of the hatred and the barbaric things, and they will give them guns and demonstrate, as you said, on the shoulders of their own parents. And this is all encouraged, and they're brainwashed to do so. And then it's like the death of those same children that they're brainwashed to go to war, and told them you'll go straight to paradise if you die for Palestine. They will use the emotional response of the death from the death of a child on the medias, to say, oh, my child died. But isn't that what you wanted in the first place? By using human shields tactics, and by putting children in that problem. When you love your children, you don't do that. But once again, they they just support Hamas because they think either they're paid for staying where they are and dying, or they die and they survive, or they die and they go to Jannah. So it's another payment for their children. So I think a normal response when you have kids is to think about their opportunities, to give them a true life, to expect them to be happy, not to throw them in that propaganda and bombing. So yeah, it's sad, but it's a very vicious cycle.
Yeah. Bumika Chanani, welcome. I don't know why I cannot reply to you uh, in the chat, but you're spot on what you said in the chat. Um, so yeah, speaking of children, we've seen a lot of these. we've seen a lot of these. For, uh, Hamas, of course, they brag about what they did, and they want to strike fair to the enemy, and that's why they release these things. That's why even like from their own testimony, they will show what they did to, and we can see the brutality and the disregard of life from the people, from these from these so-called people. Uh, Now, when of course, when their supporters are very much on their side when they do this, that means that their supporters also view their enemies, which is in this case the Jews, as some. They don't view them as the same species. They don't view them as humans. They treat them. They view them worse than animals. Uh, I mean, in Islam, there is this whole thing of treating animals horribly, but it seems like when you have when you look upon Jews, then you view them as not worthy even as an animal. This goes back to Muhammad, of course. Again, this is why I say that Hamas is very much an Islamic problem. Uh, yeah, the links go so far as I mean, it's all over the place, and this is why I think it's a fair comparison to Nazism. Um, so there's so much to say about this. One, for example, here, one thing that comes to mind is a lot of the times when you talk with Holocaust deniers, is they say, why did they document everything? It doesn't make sense. Well, then again, just look at Hamas. Uh, they are very proud of what they were doing. That's why they were documenting it. And as soon, and this is always the case, right? As soon as they're on the losing streak, then the propaganda starts of, we are the victims. No, no, they never did that. That's a conspiracy. Uh, no, the Holocaust never happened. No, Hamas never killed anybody. These are these are IDF soldiers in disguise. These people are just um, actors, like stuff, stupid stuff like this. I mean, we've seen this, we've seen this over and over, right? Ever since the Holocaust, and I mean, even today, people are, still denying that. We've seen that with 9/11, like this whole thing of an inside job. I remember the first days of 9/11, the same thing. Muslims worldwide were very much celebrating 9/11. They think they thought Osama bin Laden was a hero. They liked that he was attacking America because America uh, stepped over the line and kept hammering down the Muslim countries unjustifiably, right? Now, of course, nobody ever talks about the horrors of the leaders in those countries and what they were doing to their own communities, right? Nobody ever talks about that. But now it's when America starts retaliating, then it's an inside job. Masa Amini, when shit hit the fan, all right, with Masa Amini, then first it was, well, of course she deserves to be beaten to death. She wasn't wearing a burqa correctly. And then it was, nah, 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 she was just a Kurdish spy, or she was she it was all an act to start an uprising by the Islamophobes. It's always the same script. And every time something like this happened, all right, now excluding the Holocaust here, I talk about 9/11 and the uprising of Iran and Hamas. Uh, every time something like this happened, we always have the token Muslim coming up and saying, "Well, we condemn. This has nothing to do with us. This has nothing to do with Islam. No, no. As a Muslim, I condemn. That nothing to do with me. I'm very much on your side." And what tends to happen is just people are outraged, but they cannot. What happens is they cannot fuel their rage properly to what is actually causing the issue, right? So they just stomp their feet on the ground and wondering who I'm gonna lash out on, and this whole this whole uh, confusion happens afterwards. This is happening right now again. Every terror attack, this always happens. The issue here is that it's very much scripted, and I think it's very much planned. So there's a group, for example, on Clubhouse. Now Clubhouse is kind of dead, but before it was dead, there was a room called Masa Amini. What's going on and why you should care. Now I suspect that uh, these actors are not really who they say they are. I think they might be uh, government officials, but I have no proof of that. But let's say I'm wrong, and let's say that they are in fact humanitarians. They're Muslim humanitarians, and they're looking for people, even Muslims, who will come up and condemn the terror regime of Iran, right? So of course all the Sunnis have a field day coming up and saying this is wrong, this is not Islam, and they will have a field day and just spread more confusion. And all the people who were part of the movement to end the Islamic regime of Iran, who tried to have a voice, were silenced. They were not able to speak because they were Islamophobic. Uh, so right now, that movement is dead. Uh, their rooms are pretty empty. Uh, Nobody cares anymore. I think it's a very sad thing that nobody cares because it's very important that people should care what's going on in Iran. And of course, especially right now, because we see that yes, Iran has linked to Hamas and Hezbollah and what just happened. They very much contributed to the fact and condoned the actions and starting to threaten America. And right now, of course, Biden, as a dumbass as he is, says that there is no evidence that this has anything to do with Iran. Do I really need to go on? I think at least people will give me that yes, that is as dumb as he was 2 years ago when he said he had no idea that Taliban was going to take it over. Sorry, you were saying something?
No, I said yes, completely. Like, but any propaganda, any totalitarian ideology like Islam is has to destroy reason. So you know, uh, talking about Iranians, I heard someone say, I don't understand how they can defend Hamas in the West. The Muslims, they're in a free land and they're just like they're supporting this. But when it's in your face in a Muslim country like Iran, like very very strong, worst version of Islam, you can overdose from that, and that's when the state use enforcement. That's when they repress people violently and they keep them inside. But when it's in the West, I think that as I grew up like in a Sunni moderate Muslim background, it's always like the lie and the doubt. So you have your parents say, sorry, my son.
Oh, well, that's fine. All right. Well, so let me. While you. Anyway, yeah, that's actually got me off guard. Was he crying because he didn't like what you were saying? So he was very upset with. He was not. He wanted to say that you're wrong, mom. This is not true. No, I'm just joking. But yeah. So to the thread I was going with, what I wanted to finish up here is that right now we see these Muslims who had a peace treaty, or not a peace treaty, Abraham Accord with Israel coming up, and the officials of those countries, these are the GCC countries, uh, coming up and very much condemning it, right? Well, first off, uh, this doesn't mean that the vast majority of Muslims are on Israel's side. On the contrary, as I said, it seems like it's the opposite. And those officials are not really representatives of the people's voice in their countries. So you have to realize there's a difference between, uh, let's say, the Moroccan officials and the Moroccan on the street. Because Moroccans on the street, and we saw this. I can show a video clip of that. When they were in Morocco, when Israelis were in Morocco during the World Cup, then the there were Moroccans who said, fuck Israel, only Palestine. Um, so that's also something to remember. And of course, Egypt just signed the peace treaty, or the Abraham. Sorry, I gotta stop saying that. The Abraham Accords, and now Jews thought it was gonna be safe. And at the day of the terror attacks, uh, there were 6 Israelis who got killed by a cop in Egypt. What crime did they commit that they deserve to get killed? Nobody knows. Nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to want to investigate. I'm pretty sure that their crime was being Jewish, but that's just me speculating because, of course, no Muslim will ever kill any. Oh, wait, yes. Of course they would. I don't even need to finish for people to understand that, yeah, that sentence is not true because of Hamas. Unless, of course, you will say that Hamas is not Muslim. But one thing also that is important that a lot of people have missed is that these Abraham Accords, since they are very much struck at the accordance of Sharia, the Sharia manual also says that you, as a Muslim, shall not tell to the infidels what the crimes of your fellow Muslims. And I think this is very much why all these agencies and intelligence agencies across the world missed what was going on right under the nose. Just like they missed under 9/11. Saudi Arabia playing nice, the GCC countries are playing nice. They they act like they had nothing to do with it, and then it seems like they knew all along. And I think it's the same thing here. The GCC countries, when Israel asked them about intel, they said, no, of course, we will tell you if we hear anything, but we haven't heard anything. And they trusted them. And of course, now, uh, in hindsight, maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should be more skeptical. However, this hindsight is something uh, I see a lot of Israelis do not share with me. They still want to go with the narrative that the GUC is their friends. And I think that's a mistake. And this is very, what I feel is uh, just so tiresome that people still don't want to say that, yes, this is because of Islam. Uh, this is somebody, Hamas, and the people. Another thing also is I starting to see this concept of Shia Islam is bad, Sunni Muslim is good, because Iran is Shia and they're supporting of Hamas. But wait a minute, Hamas have ISIS flags and ISIS were Sunni. So like, I don't understand how people still don't see beyond the veil. I see, Amazik, are you occupied still?
No, I was thinking about what you said because maybe most of people they have like no the percentage of Sunnis. It's Sunnism is a majority, so they have most of the time a friend that is probably Sunni, and they think that because they integrate well, that gives Sunnism a sort of a better press right now, and also like the um, the fact that Saudi Arabia was kind of getting closer to Israel late in the recent times, like MBS is he is representing the Sunni Islam as well. So I think it's an ensemble of factors, but we both you and I we know it's equally bad. Doesn't change anything.
Yeah, but yeah, I think sometimes even if people want to ignore you, just hope that once, I don't know, slowly but gradually, people are starting waking up. Um, but it is tiresome. It is tiresome, especially after a terror attack, to see that people are still trying the old ways and not trying something new. Now, yes, I do think that Israel is on the right track right now, making sure that um, Gaza is no more. I mean, it sounds harsh to say for YouTube perhaps, but uh, the only thing, and this is coming back to Nazi Germany again, the only thing these people understand is total destruction and subjugation, and then re-education and re-escalation and de-radicalization. Because this concept, this poison has been fueled for over 20 years in that region, and of course, uh, all the Palestinian diaspora and all the supporters of it has been very toxic in the West as well. So yeah, it needs to be rooted out. So at least that I'm happy that at least that they're starting to say that, yeah, even if they don't want to accept that this has to do with Islam, and they say that, yeah, it's been hijacked by these people, they still accept that, yes, they are fueled by hatred, and that hatred needs to be weeded out. So at least that, at least the European Union and the countries who supported Palestine now halted their support. They reevaluate the money that they sent to the Gaza Strip.
Yes, I heard that the 6 billion were frozen again from the money that was supposed to go to Iran was frozen. Then it was said that it's blocked again. And by the way, have you seen like the drawing of Charlie Hebdo?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's really accurate. Like you know that Israel has been criticized for cutting water and electricity and food from the Gaza strips, and they made a cartoon showing a, a man from Hamas, and he's saying how barbaric. While he was trying to wash his blood covered hands, the water
Oh
didn't
yeah,
come out.
I just googled
Very
it.
accurate. I liked it.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
summarize everything.
that's a nice one. Uh, Can I upload a picture here, maybe? Uh, hmm, you know, that's good. I will do that. Oh, space potatoes here. Hey, Jane. Uh, yeah, I will upload it. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a song and then upload it. I'm gonna upload that footage in that song. That's gonna be funny. Yeah. All right, so I see 3 people are watching at the moment. That's more than I ever had ever. I'm that popular. Um, let's see if I can invite people. So yeah, the StreamYard link is in the comments, so you can join and talk to us if you want to. All right. I've been here for 50. Damn. Every time I'm like we're gonna be on 2 hours, and I have 2 or 3 videos to show and go through, and even before I get to them, it's almost 1 hour in. So the first one I wanted to react to is Piers Morgan debating Palestinian Mustafa Barghouti, and yeah, of course he is as hypocritical, and I mean Piers Morgan here really disappointed me. I wish that he would be much harder than he was, but yeah, let's see what he says, and let's react to that. So I'm gonna upload. I'm gonna share a screen. There we go. And I'm gonna play it. This time you should hear it.
By the Palestinian Initiative leader, Mustafa Barghouti. Mr. Barghouti, thank you for joining me. It's very hard when you look at the scale of what has happened here not to believe that this is a reprehensible terrorist attack by a bunch of medieval barbarians. When I say that, what is your response?
First of all, let me say that I'm really sorry about what happened to the
Can you hear it?
family. I'm glad they are safe.
Yes, perfect.
If I can contribute to relieving their suffering, I am ready to do so. That's one side of the issue. But what I would like you to know, and I want the audience to know, is that what they described is exactly what happened to many Palestinian families only 3 months ago when Israeli.
Okay, so he's not gonna push back on that, but I just want to know what incident is he even talking about, and how is it to even compare to what happened? Are you telling me that IDF soldiers went to the West Bank and murdered innocent children? Really? Now, for anybody who comes up and says, "Well, yeah, they've been doing this all along," no, they haven't. All right, it's a completely different situation when terrorists comes to your home and massacre you, shouting "Allahu Akbar," and when IDF soldiers come to you and say, "Hey, you know what? Uh, you're here occupying this house illegally, and uh, you know you refuse to leave, even though we asked you multiple times that you should pay some rent." Right? I mean, of course, I'm simplifying this, but yeah, there's a lot of details always missed when these takia takia representatives are acting up and giving speeches. There's gonna be so much. I wish somebody here. We had somebody here who was from Israel that had more uh, details from the ground to tell us about this, because there's so much disinformation that's going on when it comes to Israel. But yeah, uh, to just suggest anyway that you know IDF were doing the same thing that Hamas was doing, I think is despicable.
Illegal settlers attacked their houses and burned them. These were American Palestinians from the village of Tormusaiya and Sinjil and Huwara, and they almost faced the same story. Their houses burned, their cars burned by fanatic Israeli illegal settlers. In this situation, I'm
And look at the terminology, right? Illegal settlers, right? That's the terminology he uses. Illegal settlers, as if Israel has no right to be there, right? I mean, even if Mustafa Barghouti is not a Hamas, all right, is not Hamas, he's very much having the same idea in their head of Jews are not welcome here.
I'm a medical doctor, as you know, and I learned that the
Medical
best
doctor,
treatment
just
of
like
a
Dr.
patient
Zakir
is
Naik.
not only to look at the symptoms, but at the causes of the problem. And while we are talking, Gaza now is under
Isn't that amazing that he says he needs to go to the root cause and doesn't recognize that Islam is the root cause?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Dodging
medical
it.
doctor. Yeah.
bombardment. Gaza is taken, actually, Netanyahu is taking Gaza, the whole of Gaza, 2.2 million people as a hostage, cutting water, cutting electricity, cutting medicines, cutting food from them. The acts of collective punishment.
So this is funny because their enemies do not recognize Israel. They want to eradicate all Jews, that not just from Israel, let's be honest, from the face of the planet. And yet Israel gives them food and water, just like you said, right? Just like the Charlie Hebdo picture. You know, I we should probably we should probably show that. Uh, we should let's see. We should probably show that picture. Uh,
Yeah, you have that narrative that says Israel controls the water, and I've seen that in articles in the West, saying that it's not giving water, it's controlling water. So it depends, as you said, on the terminology, but they just forget the fact that Israel is probably giving water to all of its neighbors, all of its the countries around it. So I mean, it's just so silly.
I'm trying to find like a good big image, but it's all like it's all clogged by my browser, showing uh, showing uh, advertisement and all nonsense. So I will yeah, guys, if you can just look up that picture, Charlie Hebdo, uh, type Charlie Hebdo Hamas. It should be one of the first one. Yeah, it really summarizes the story perfectly. Um, Space, you said you need to interview an Israeli. Yes, I would love to. I would love for one of my friends to come up here and talk to us about it. I know a friend. I think you met him as well from Clubhouse. Well, that's how you know people nowadays. Yeah, I don't know him personally, but he lives in northern Israel. All right, so let me tell you this: he's very busy right now, and I asked him to kill a terrorist for me if it comes to that. So yeah, uh, Space. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Charlie Hebdo. Okay, I'm just gonna try to let's keep let's keep listening to him.
Against 2.2 million Palestinians is not the right response. And this will lead to more problems. But the cause problem of what we see here is 56 years of military Israeli occupation of Palestinian land. The fact that Netanyahu blocked every possibility for a peaceful resolution of this conflict, he blocked Oslo agreement, he fought against it, he aggravated people against Yitzhak Rabin, who was assassinated after signing Oslo agreement.
Uh, is that even true? I don't think that's true at all. I haven't seen Netanyahu talking anything about the Oslo agreement or trying to go back on it. I haven't seen him ridiculing Isaac Rabin. Have you?
No, just listen to the Israeli president Herzog, um, who answered some question as well. And that was so funny because the Western media was still asking about, war crimes, as he was just depicting and showing, the pictures of what the Hamas did to the dead bodies pictures and the horror of the attacks. And it was quite comical to see the reaction of the West to what he was saying. So yeah, I just focused on let's make the false equivalence of saying this is the same. The this is just what Israel did to Palestinians. That's really a joke.
Yes. Okay, so let's move here.
And the result is what we see today, a protracted problem. The only way out of this situation so that no Palestinian or Israeli would suffer is to end the Israeli illegal occupation, end the system of apartheid. And I'm not saying that by my own words, these are the words
You
of
know,
Amnesty
the
International and Human.
problem when I listen to these liars, these takia masters, is I always say this: it's so good when you debate a Muslim that you can fact check in real time because you let you let them go on. Uh, you have 99 lies in a matter of a minute. It's so much disinformation in this clip that you cannot really spot all of it, and you just need to pause it and pause it and pause it. What did he just say?
By my own words, these are the words of Amnesty International and Human
Oh yeah,
Rights
yeah,
Watch, and
yeah.
even the
Let's talk about Amnesty International, right? Um, that whole document of Amnesty International was very, very skewed and very biased and one-sided, and I'm pretty sure that it was. I mean, usually when I go to Amnesty International, I use their sources. I think they are very fair and very objective, but in this case, they were very subjective. Uh, Usually, when you go to their website and look at what's going on, they get testimonies from people who are victims of of their governments, right? Well, here they're not talking about Hamas or PLO or anything like that. Yeah, the Amnesty always have a problem with acknowledging Islam as the root cause, root source, of course. But um, since I mean, all these so-called victims do not recognize Israel, and all these things, Robert Spencer has it in his book, how much this Palestine is actually influencing everybody. Uh, how these so-called victims and how these freedom fighters um, uh, are very malicious, have malicious intent. It's never brought up. It's never brought up. All the terror attacks against Israeli civilians and stuff like that. And I haven't seen Amnesty International actually condemning Hamas since this happened. They haven't really gone through the source of the terror of Hamas in their documents ever. So I mean, I'm getting tired of them, just uh, saying that yeah, the United Nations condemning this, which is like yeah, who's the people, who's the nations in the United Nations that condemning who's condemning Israel? Well, it's all these shithead countries, and a lot of these countries now try to have normal relations with Israel, and that is exactly what sparked the fuel of Hamas saying that you Arabs are not to uh, are not to have normalizations with Israel. This is unprecedented from an Islamic viewpoint. So much to unpack. You wanted to add something, or should I keep going?
Okay, I can keep going.
Israeli human rights organization B'Tselem in the system of apartheid that Palestinians are subjected to.
You know, I
We
watched
all
you.
are,
If I may just jump in there, I watched you do an interview with an old colleague of mine, Fareed Zakari at CNN, and you said many similar
yes.
things, and it was a thoughtful interview. It was conducted respectfully, but you said one thing there which I wanted to challenge you on now, which is you said that in these attacks, Hamas did not target civilians. I mean, that is clearly completely untrue. They deliberately targeted civilians. Would you like to retract that statement?
No, I said that Hamas attacked, started by attacking military stations. And obviously, there were attacks on civilians, which we don't accept and we don't agree with, as much as we don't agree now with what the Israeli airstrikes are doing to Gaza, striking civilian population, killing so far 700 people. And I am sure by tomorrow morning it will be 2,000 people killed.
But just to clarify,
including
Mr.
up till
Barghouti,
now.
just to clarify, you do now accept they were targeting civilians because you didn't accept that on CNN.
No, I said I didn't have the full information. I know now that some civilians were killed, and this is unacceptable.
I mean, it's not just some
against
civilians. I mean, 260 young, mainly
Okay,
young
and
people. Well, let me just say something. 260 mainly young people attending a peaceful music festival were machine gunned,
yes,
to
this should not
their
have
death
happened.
by terrorists flying in, paragliding in with machine guns. I mean, it is hard to imagine a worse atrocity. Do you unreservedly condemn that act of terrorism?
I do not accept killing any civilian, but would you tell me that the Israeli soldiers that have killed today?
So this is a play on words, right? This is a classic play on words. Oh, France banned pro-Palestinian protests? Really? Oh, I didn't know that. Amazik, you might tell me more about that, but let's go through this first. Um, this is a play on words. Because they do not see Israelis and their supporters or anybody who's coming to the Israel state to party as civilians. They see them as targets. They don't see them as innocent, right? So they don't see them as civilians. I, how do I know that? Well, because Islam says that, right? Uh, and I talked to supporters of Hamas and Palestinians who are much more blunt about these things, um, who said that, yeah, if you're women and children in that region and the war is coming, then you're not a civilian. You're part of the problem, and you should be ruled out. Of course, this double standards, right? It never brings to their mind that, wait a minute, uh, when it's the opposite, like Israel is bombing you, then how come that you get the civilian status while you were cheering Allahu Akbar for the terrorists? Like, it's always one-sided.
140 Palestinian children and 105 Palestinian women are also terrorists?
I think that
Would you say that?
I think the Israeli people are entitled to defend themselves against what happened in the last
And
48
don't,
hours. I'm not for a moment defending everything the Israeli government's done in the last few decades. Of course, I've always, where it's been justified, criticized what they've been doing. But on this occasion, I'm not interested in playing whataboutery with you. I'm simply asking,
would you agree with
I'm
me?
simply asking you, do you unreservedly condemn the
I
slaughter of
condemn any,
260
yeah,
innocent people?
I condemn any killing of any civilian, whether Palestinian or Israeli. But you have to accept that if Israel has the right to defend itself, Palestinians also must have the same right of being able to defend
But
themselves.
nobody has a right to commit. Nobody has a right to commit acts
no,
of terrorism.
but
We'd agree with that, right?
Would you say, no, I am asking, would you say that we also have the right to defend ourselves as human beings?
I think that there has been an oppression of the Palestinian people in Gaza for way too long. I think that there needs to be a peace settlement. We finally got there. We finally got there in Northern Ireland. But I don't understand how anybody with even half a brain would think the way to get a peace settlement is to kill nearly 1,000 mostly innocent Israelis who have nothing to do with the conflict many of whom were attending a music festival and get machine gunned to pieces. There is no
You-
way.
you- you-
there is no way
you-
that
you-
kind of
I understand, I
attack is ever
understand.
going to forge peace, is there?
Absolutely, but let's look forward. Now, at this very moment, there are hostages, there are Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails, there are Israeli prisoners in Gaza. The best step forward is the following: immediate exchange of prisoners, immediate stop of all the fighting, immediate ceasefire, and opening the road for what you have said, something like what happened in Ireland, ending the Israeli illegal occupation, allowing Palestinians finally to be free from oppression and to live side by side. I personally wouldn't mind if we could live side by side in two-state solution. But if Israel kills the two-states option, I think the only solution is that we live together in one country, in peacefully.
Can I ask you? I know you're not a.
in one democratic state.
Okay, I know you're not a
where,
member.
where we both have equal rights.
Yeah.
And we both are entitled to the same equal human rights. I think that's the only way out of this situation. And we cannot say. I mean, I could list to you now so many atrocities. Let me tell.
Okay, so now he's yapping his mouth forever. But Piers Morgan here compares Israel to North Ireland. I don't know if that's a fair comparison. I don't really think it's a fair comparison at all. Because again, the ones threatening the people who wants to live in peace are the Palestinians. The the Irish were always under scrutiny from the British Crown, right? So to say somehow that both are, I don't know, but both are somehow the innocent victims of oppression is not valid. And whatever this guy is selling here about living in one nation in peace, yeah, I don't buy it. It's been tried, and these people rejected it. In fact, the whole idea of Palestine is because they rejected Israel. So so now they want to say no. We want to be in the same state as you. I don't understand how that works out.
Completely agree.
One thing from my own personal experience.
Yeah,
Oh,
about
go ahead, go ahead.
France. Yeah, the protestation, pro-Palestinian demonstrations and rallies were banned because there was always there's an increased amount of anti-Semitic attacks since Saturday. So the Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin is also the police chief. So he has forbidden the any pro-Palestinian demonstration, and yes, I guess that's all. That's all about France, I think.
All right, let's move on here.
Once in 1996, I was treating an injured person. I was a medical person in my white coat, and an Israeli sniper saw me and shot me twice. I
Okay,
still carry
okay.
35 shrapnels in my back, but I don't.
I call bullshit on that one. I mean, first off, I would like to see those shrapnels, right? But even if you have them, then what does it prove? How do we know it was an IDF soldier? I, I mean, yeah, that's just yeah. It's so much propaganda. This Takia, what's his name again? Uh,
But that's
gonna,
so ridiculous to say, let's make a one-state solution where the Arabs could integrate. But if you do that, it will no longer be a Jewish state. You have 50% of the population Arab and probably Muslim as well. So it's not going to end the tension.
yeah, and again, when have Muslims ever integrated, right? I-
Yeah, and
if you
even
have
the
50%
Arab.
Muslims in a country, then it's gonna be is gonna be there's gonna be a lot of people wanting Sharia, and they will despise having Jews in the parliament. Yeah.
Exactly, and they will. So basically, Netanyahu is stuck on this situation because either he keeps his a country as a democracy, and include those Arabs, or he keeps the Jewishness of the state and refuse that because it's not going to work either way. So he's either going to be like a non-democratic state, which will bring so much criticism. But anyways, it's yeah,
Here's another
completely
thing,
absurd.
that Israelis don't want to tell you much about, especially those who want to build bridges, right? Is that uh, I heard that a lot of the crime rates in Israel, guess who is fueling those crime rates?
Arab Israelis, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
Of course.
yeah. I mean, you have 20% or so Muslims. At least they recognize that they can live, under uh, under Israeli rule, right? But just look at France, uh, or take any other country. I mean, they have descendants of Palestine, right? Even though they are not from Palestine, they're Arabs. But yeah, Muslims in general in Europe, you don't have 20% yet, and you see how crazy shit is, right? You have at most, in the Western world, I think isn't it France up to 8 or 9% or something like that officially?
I think it's an old number, but yeah, around 9.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, probably more in reality, but yeah, and you see how crazy things are, right? Now,
Yes, and most of
Israel, a
the,
small
the
country, 20% of them are Arab Israelis, Muslim Israelis, and I'm actually surprised that we don't hear more about the crime rates of Israel. I want to know their secret, because maybe the secret is that if you're too much of a scumbag, then off you go to Gaza. I don't know, but yeah,
yeah, and I have a contact in Jerusalem, which is supposed to be the the city where they coexist, kind of. But the she told me like right after the attack, the mosques of Jerusalem were calling for jihad. Can you imagine
yeah,
like
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah, yeah,
happened from
yeah,
the
yeah,
inside?
yeah, yeah.
I was so
But I
shocked.
also one thing that's good is that I heard officials saying that Muslim officials in Israel actually saying that they will not join their jihad. But of course, it's a problem. Again, the officials do not represent all the Muslims, right? And if you have mosques in Jerusalem calling for jihad, that's an issue. There's a big issue. Now, it's a good thing that Muslims did not rise up and starting harassing people in Jerusalem. I think Hamas were hoping for that, but it didn't happen. So that's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, I have heard mosques playing ISIS songs where I'm at, right after ISIS were defeated, as a hope for uprising. That means that somebody who was an ISIS supporter went to that mosque and fumbled with the equipment, or infiltrate a state radio or whatever, and start to play ISIS songs. That means somebody is actually in favor of those terror organizations, and tries to strike fear from amongst the from the civilization within. That is an issue. There's so much to unpack.
Oh yes.
Shall we keep going here?
Yeah, you can.
Keep talking about that. I think the way out of this is to stop all forms of violence, to stop all forms of conflict, and to allow a peaceful resolution.
But here's the thing,
And that peaceful
Mustafa. Here's the thing. Let me just
resolution.
respond to that. you know, when I watched your interview at CNN and I hear you again tonight, you sound a reasonable man who wants a reasonable solution to this, right? I'm not going to disrespect you by saying otherwise. The problem is Hamas are not reasonable people. They're not like you. They just want to kill as many Jews as they can possibly kill. They have no interest in the kind of resolution that you're talking about. And Hamas now has a stranglehold over the Gaza Strip and the Palestinian people. As long as they have that stranglehold with their concept of how this plays out, there is no chance of the settlement you're talking about. Do you accept that?
May I respond?
Yeah.
I know Hamas people. I've negotiated with them so many times. I've debated with them many times about the value and power of nonviolent resistance. And I tell you, they are ready to accept two-state solution. They are ready to accept that. What they are not ready to accept is that we Palestinians will repeat what the PLO leadership did, recognizing Israel as a state, while Israel still refuses to recognize our right as a state. You know, one of the main problems that Netanyahu created, and I think this man will be definitely put in front of many inquiries about what happened in the last 2 days or 3 days. But one of the worst things he did was to stand up in the United Nations only 2 weeks ago, carrying the map of Israel, including annexing the occupied West Bank, annexing the occupied Gaza Strip, annexing the occupied East Jerusalem, as well as the Golan Heights, which Israeli officially annexed. This map.
You know, one thing strikes me here. I know he's a doctor, right? Or he claims to be a doctor. But look at his house. Look at his apartment. Like, you gotta tell me this looks like a guy in oppression who's oppressed.
Right.
This guy lives. This guy lives nicer than me. Look at it. I mean, look at it. Like, you know, it's like you can have a nice house party with your sophisticated friends talking about medicine, and like your wife brings you tea, you know, and cookies, and she joins the table. You know, oh wait, no, that's illegal in Islam, of course. Is this guy a Muslim, or is he just like a secular Muslim? Because I heard a lot of this claim that, you know, the Palestinians, it's not about Islam anymore. It's about oppression. It's about having equal rights. And every time I bring up, you know, my pig taking a dump on the Kaaba, somehow they get triggered. I just don't know why. I mean, they shouldn't be triggered, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird. Like they claim to not have a choice and to be oppressed, and I can't understand that vision. I mean, it's they had all the options, you know, and they wanted the situation to get worse. I just don't get it. As if Hamas wanted peace. Like this guy is just lying on TV right now. It's crazy.
That's what they always do. I like his house though.
I think the spokesperson he claimed that there was no civilians killed during the
Yeah, that's
Hamas
him. That's
attack.
him. Mustafa
That should
That's,
become a meme.
yeah. That's what Pierce Morgan was questioning him about. Like, he's like, how, like you were actually denying it. Now we have the footage. Are you still denying it? And that's what I said. Like, yeah, he then condemns killing of civilians from both sides, right? And make this false equivalency. But the fact is that when he thinks of Israel, uh, this is true for the people who supports uh, this Palestine delusion, is that they don't see Israelis as civilians. That's the biggest issue, and they cannot fathom that once it goes back on them, somehow now they are all civilians, right? This just I don't understand how people think sometimes. Like, this guy is an old guy, supposed to be a doctor, supposed to be intelligent, and he lies so easy and believes this bullshit, and he cannot put himself in the position of the other.
You see, that's the problem with Islam. Like, they believe in such a prophecy that they have to wipe out any Jew on earth, and that will basically provoke the apocalypse, and the the return of Isa. So they don't care. They dehumanized people. They just see them as as you said, targets, just to realize Allah's plan. That's it. And so they don't see them as people, actual people. They just see them as a thing they have to destroy, and to make the world Islamic, or you know to realize a prophecy. Basically, that's the common factor of all those people. And it's always based on lies, always.
Yep. Right. So we have a little bit left of this Takia master. Uh, well, I'm gonna call him Mustafa Takia from now on.
Nice name.
by itself drove everybody crazy. That meant that he and his government, with people like Smotrich, who doesn't hide away calling himself a fascist homophobe, they say that we should fill the West Bank with settlers and settlements so that Palestinians would lose all hopes of a state of their own.
Okay.
And then they will have one of three choices: either to immigrate, or accept a life of subjugation to the Israelis, or die. Such statement by the second most important minister in the Israeli government does not lead to peace. And that's
Well,
what
on that
people
on that point, Mr.
Yes.
Begum, I would agree with you. I think some of the more hardline right-wing headbangers, frankly, that Netanyahu's put into his cabinet are coming out with incendiary rhetoric before this, which has been deeply unhelpful. So on that, I would agree with you. I've got to leave it there, but thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's amazing about that statement, I don't know if that statement is true, but what's amazing about that statement is that, again, he doesn't understand the irony here, because Hamas is asking for exactly the same thing. All right, get out, be subjugated, or die. All right, that's Islam, Quran 9:29. All right, that is exactly what what they want for the Jews. Right, become dhimmis, get out, or die. That's, and he doesn't see the irony. He doesn't see the irony, and he says that Hamas is for the two-state solution. Bullshit. They're not for the two-state solution. Like, and Pierce is just going on with it, and he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You seem like a good, respectable guy. Now, I want you to retract the statement. Do you retract? Well, yeah, I'm gonna retract uh, a little bit of it, but Israel's still the bad guy. So. Um, you understand my point of view, right? Yeah. He's like, yes, yes, of course, yeah, yeah. Pierce really did a terrible job in this interview. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy. He disappointed me because when he interviewed two Jews right after the massacres, I think the day, yeah, he was like, "What about the both sides and civilians?" So he's the kind of guy who hold that, equally horrible situation for both civilians, on both sides. So it's like, oh no, not that, Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, Pierce does do some good interviews sometimes, but on this, he's just a buffoon. Yeah. So we've been here for 1 hour 30 minutes. I was planning on going on for 2 hours and having 3 videos to go through. We've been through one, and I want to have a short break, take some coffee, and play a song in between. I might skip the third one. It's about Omar Suleiman. It's an interview about 8 months ago. He did a whole interview. It's a 3 hour interview. I don't gonna go through the 3 hours, of course, but there is a section where he's talking about Israel Palestine. Omar Suleiman is the head. Uh, let's see, founder and president of the Yaqeen Institute for Islamic Research and a professor of Islamic Studies at Southern Methodist University. So this guy is a big name, and he's also a descendant of the poor Palestinians. Uh, Now, I haven't heard him actually saying anything about this war that's going on right now. So this is an old one, but I just wanted to compare and see how we are today. Uh, because yeah, I might do actually. What I might do is do a video just on him and go through all the lies. Anyway,
Okay.
so yeah, go ahead.
I was saying it's a great idea
Yeah, yeah,
if it doesn't get put down because of copyright.
yeah, yeah. I have to be more. I have to be more diplomatic. Yeah. But so let's have a short break here. Let me ask you. I have, of course, your little video that you sang once, and I'm trying to upload the other two. I mean, it's Halloween after all, so the one the one is very much in season, and Jumua as well. Um, so I have all the old ones still. Um, which song would you like to listen to?
Oh, any. I don't have any problem.
Okay, then
They're
you're
all
gonna
funny.
so you have to listen to your own voice. Let's see.
That's hard for me, actually. I might turn the sound down.
I thought maybe you could put your son to sleep,
Yeah,
by sing to him.
I think I won't be short. Yeah.
All right, all right. Well, let me. hmm, I need to upload more songs. Okay, this one is always a nice one.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي إن أراد النبي أن يستنكحا رسول الله يستنكحا رسول الله يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما يستنكحا رسول الله يستنكحا رسول الله إن أراد النبي أن يستنكحا وما كان لكم أن تؤذوا رسول الله رسول الله يستنكحا رسول الله يستنكحا رسول الله
Okay. I don't know what happened. I lost connection there for a minute. Um. No. What happened to? Did I lost connection to everybody? What's going on? Is everybody here? Okay. Well, I don't know where Amazigh went, but in the meanwhile, I'm gonna play a short clip here. Yeah. Okay. So Amazigh said her browser had a bug. She should be able to come back. All right, so I wanted to play Yasser Qadi, the guy who gave us the holes in the narrative, and Yasser Qadi is very much a supporter of Hamas and supporting of the terrorism that just happened. He made a statement about this, but that's not what we're going to look at. We're going to look at a very short one where allegedly, hello, welcome back. Yeah, I had a problem with the browser too.
I don't know why though. It's really weird. At the same time, okay, maybe
Yeah, it
because
might
of the song.
be. It might be that you glitched out because I glitched out. So sometimes it works like that. But anyway, yeah. So Yasser Qadi, he slams Jordan Peterson over Israel 4 days ago, and I like to listen to that. It's not a very. It's for a 4 minute clip. So here we go.
Jordan Peterson has tweeted to Netanyahu, give him hell, advocating violence against the Palestinians. What is your response to Jordan Peterson and the like?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, قَدْ بَدَتِ الْبَغْضَاءُ مِنْ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ وَمَا تُخْفِي صُدُورُهُمْ أَكْبَرُ. Hatred has appeared from their tongues, and the hatred that their hearts conceal is even more so. This is a person that I have been seeing his videos on and off. There's no doubt there's some issues that are positive, but I have always found him to be an ardent supporter of Zionism against our Palestinian brothers and sisters. And this has shown clearly from the very beginning. This recent tweet of his once again indicates that not just him, but overall, so many of our politicians, so many of our pseudo-philosophers, they're looking at this entire reality from an extremely skewed narrative. How can one ignore 80 years of oppression? How can one ignore 80 years of colonization? How can one ignore 80 years of direct taking over of the lands and the peoples? People that are not even Muslim, Nelson Mandela and others have mentioned that the Palestinians have been treated at times worse than Nelson Mandela says.
Okay, that's it. I mean, a lot of this is just rehashed from Mustafa, whatever his name was. I call it Mustafa Takia. But this is something I also heard, right? Apartheid. Apartheid and Nelson Mandela, I mean, is that even true? Like, did Nelson Mandela ever say something like that? I guess yeah. Let me find out. But let's move on.
Some policies worse than the South Africans were treated under the apartheid regime. How can we ignore this reality? And then when Palestinians attack back, what their oppression has been is ignored, and that one attack is highlighted. So the reality is that this type of one-sided reporting and this type of narrative in which only one side is perceived as the victim and the other side is completely ignored, it is about time we demolish this narrative. Let us take a look at the full picture. Fact of the matter is that our Palestinian brothers and sisters, their land, their lives, their peoples have been taken over for 3 generations. For how long will they remain like this? The world has been completely ignoring their plight. I have visited that land multiple times. I've interacted with the Palestinians. Why is there a Palestinian diaspora around the world? Over 10 million Palestinians are scattered around the world. Their ancestors have keys to their homes. How come nobody looks at them? Nobody sees their stories. Nobody sees that Gaza is the largest open air prison in the world. Do you know who said this? Our own.
I mean, again, there's okay. Here we go. I don't know. Okay, you're back. Um, I don't know why. I mean, there again, there's so much things at once here. Uh, Open air prison. Uh, okay, so if that's true, then you know what? It seems like Gaza is the open air prison for all the terrorists, and they just broke out of prison and committed terror attacks, wild terror attacks. Again, showing why they should be imprisoned. Keys to their ancestral home? No, 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 no. Just key. Uh, there was. I mean, this whole narrative again. If you look at images back after the Ottoman Empire lost the war, and during the time before became a mandate, British mandate, uh, it was empty. There was nothing there, right? Majority of the cities were empty. Jews built those cities. To claim that Muslims had keys to their ancestral homes, they always lived there. The Palestinians, no, that's bullshit. The Palestinians was sent over there to halt the Jewish immigration because they didn't want to have Jews in the land, right? The Arab leaders didn't want them, and then they told the the Arab states told the Arabs to get out of the country because they will attack and they will win, and once they win, they can come back on the and live on the blood uh, spilled of the Jews. This is just so much revision of history at once here. Okay, you keep. I don't know why you keep dropping off. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Amazu, atheist? Um. All right. Well, let's move on.
Own President Jimmy Carter of America. Jimmy Carter visited that land and said this is the largest open air prison that he has ever seen. Millions of people cramped in a small area, completely controlled by the surrounding territories. How come nobody sees the conditions they're living in, the refugee camps and the squalor that is happening for millions of people? So, subhanAllah, this person, all I can say back to him, as Allah says in the Quran, قُلْ مُوتُوا بِغَيْظِكُمْ, perish in your rage. His fate and the fate of all of those who support apartheid, Allah subhanahu wa
I'm wondering who is perishing in their rage now, Yasser Qadi. That's what I say to the Palestinians when they cry that Israel is bombing them. I say, die in your rage, perish in your rage. And when I say that, then of course, I'm the bad guy. But I haven't heard you condemning the terror attacks by Hamas, not once, not one time. Whereas I can say, you know what, I feel sorry for the kids that dies in Palestine, right? But I do not condemn the bombing of Gaza. I think it's necessary after what Hamas did, after all the supporters of Palestinians actually chanting Allahu Akbar, chanting and showing the deaths of Jews and Israelis and innocents, just being just erratic about it, just the blood rage. We see there is something needed to be done in that region. Something needs to change. And if the only thing you understand is war, then yeah, war is coming. Don't cry wolf. I mean, I think David would said it. He said that he has a prediction that all these Muslims now shouting Allahu Akbar and being very proud, and all the Palestinian supporters being very proud of these massacres, and then they're gonna come and cry that they get bombed. Well, that this is exactly what's going on. I mean, how can you be so predictable, Yasser Kadi? Anyway, we have a little bit left here.
Wa ta'ala will take care of them. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect our brothers and sisters.
Yeah, again, Allah is not protecting you right now, and Allah does not care about your brothers and sisters. In fact, He's sitting on the sidelines and can't do shit about Israel bombing the shit out of Gaza. So, joke's on you, bitch. Sorry, sorry. It's hard for me. I get triggered easily. Sorry. Amazi, are you with me?
Yes, I can hear, but my son is annoying me, so I don't want you to have his
All right.
screaming.
That's
Sorry.
fine. That's fine. Right. So we have 1 minute left. Let's go.
Who are oppressed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant victory to those who have been oppressed for decades and decades. May we see victory to all of these oppressed brothers and sisters. May Allah Azza wa Jal cause us all to be instruments.
I mean, I should make like a video where he says that, and then show pictures of Gaza decimated to the ground, and then have that song, you know, yeah.
Instruments of khair in that region.
Oh no, shut up. Okay, so it was a Freeman video. The rest of it is nonsense. Yeah. So that's Yasser Kadi. Sheikh Dr. Yasser Kadi. Of course, he's not the only one. The support of these sheiks, these imams in the West. I mean, it's all across the world, across the spaces. The Prime Minister of Scotland, yes, his name is Hamza Yusuf. Hamza Yusuf. Yeah, Hamza Yusuf. I mean, if his name was Hamza Yusuf, who would care? I mean, anyway, um, he's the one who actually condemned the Hamas terror attacks, which is, you know what? Let's see here. Yeah, yeah. Let's listen to that. Let's listen to that. It's just a very short one. So I'm happy that he did that, but then again, as I said, it was after Israel start the plans of decimating Gaza as retaliation. But yeah, he's at least let's see what he actually says here.
And many innocent people on both sides, I'm afraid, we're seeing. And many innocent people on both sides, I'm afraid, we're seeing are losing their lives, and that cannot be justified in any way, shape, or form. In terms of my own family, Andrew, we've been sick with worry. My father-in-law and mother-in-law, who are from Scotland, live in Dundee, travelled to Gaza about a week ago, where my father-in-law's mother is 92 years old, frail, elderly. He went to visit her probably for the last time. And they're trapped in Gaza. And they're being told by the Israelis to leave Gaza. They're being told that Gaza will be effectively turned into rubble. But they have nowhere to go. They can't leave. Gaza is under blockade. And even with the assistance of the Foreign Office, they cannot guarantee any safe passage to any of the borders. And therefore, you can imagine my wife and I are sick with worry about whether or not, frankly, our parents or my in-laws will survive or not. And many innocent people on both sides, I'm afraid, we're seeing are losing their lives, and that cannot be justified in any way, shape, or form. And many innocent people on both sides, I'm afraid, we're seeing are losing their lives, and that cannot be justified in any way, shape, or form.
So I just realized that he actually did not condemn Hamas outrightly. Yeah. I mean, with the humanitarian aid corridor being blocked, yeah, it sucks. But yeah, blame Hamas. Uh, Sorry, but yeah, this is you cannot say that you were in Gaza visiting your in-laws as a prime minister of Scotland and then come back home and say that somehow you were sick because they're still in Gaza. Uh, why, if you have ties to Gaza, then why wouldn't you try to change things in Gaza in the first place? If you're this guy who's the prime minister of Scotland, right? Did you ever speak about the injustice of the Gazan people being terrorized by Hamas? Yeah, it's you know it's again a very uh, I would say a shady statement, and yeah. What's your take on what he said, Ozzy? See, we lost him, Ozzy. Well, okay, so I looked up Nelson Mandela and his quotes. Yeah, Nelson Mandela was very much uh, uh, on the payroll for Palestine. Uh, Sadly, he was. Seems like he. I hate to say this, but a lot of these people that we grew up looking up to as the moral guidance, so to speak, might not have been as moral as we thought. I mean, this guy is shaking hands with Yasser Arafat or Fisheries Arafat. So, what does that tell you about him? Now, of course, people have been duped by Fisheries Arafat before, but the fact that Muslims use his quotes so much today, or I would say Palestinian supporters are using him so much today, speaks volumes. Amazi, are you still with us?
Yeah, sorry, I had some background noise. Now it's better.
Well, we are reaching the 2 hour mark, and as I say, I try to keep them at 2 hours. Uh, do you have anything you want to add? Like, before we go, something on your mind that you'd like to speak about?
No, I have to say I'm not that knowledgeable because when you live Islam, it's like you leave the whole narrative behind. So it's a lot of work to just reunite better information and make sense out of what's going on in the conflict, because in the end you're so brainwashed, and yeah, I see it completely differently right now, and it takes time. I think the next thing that ex-Muslim do in general is to leave the faith, the belief, the fake belief behind, and then oftentimes right away they will focus on the Middle Eastern conflict, because it was such a thing that was enforced on us since I was a kid, and it's like a continuation of the religion. So it's like it's a political, geopolitical issue, but it's brought to us through the religious brainwash. And when I left, it was like the next thing that I wanted to make clear. I was neutral at the first times, because I was just asking for more objective facts and truth. And yeah, it's undefendable. What the Palestinians choose to be represented, how they do that, it's just unforgivable. It's they wanted that situation to happen. And I remember a small anecdote when I was young, and we were watching a lot of Al Jazeera. I remember my father was watching like all day when there used to be like an escalation in the Middle Eastern conflict. And you know, just to make him happy, I drew. I think I was 7 or 8, something like that. I drew Israeli soldiers killing Palestinian children. So it was so brainwashed at a very early age. And I still remember my dad was so proud and so happy, and he, you know, he was. You have that as a Muslim at that time. If you had a different point of view than pro-Palestinian, you were not a Muslim. You know, that aspect was making you like the enemy of Islam, like an apostate. Even if you still practiced Islam and you know, believed in it as your religion, if you had a different, slightly different position, neutral or pro-Israel, they would treat you like an apostate, basically. So it's really deeply anchored in the ideology, and people have to understand that it's a big part of the brainwash, that it's the fantasy of the Muslims to see a prophecy realize itself. We grew up thinking, Yahud, Jew is an insult, and when people say you're not doing something extraordinary, they have that expression, or you're not liberating, you're not freeing Palestine. This is very common in the Arabic world, and the you know, even the Arab Islam Muslim family in the West. Those expressions are part of everyday life, so you can see how ingrained, how deep the brainwash is. It's not just something that some Muslim get interested into. It's part of the cult, and yeah, it's really big. So, moderate or not, this is the same. They all agree on that point, believe me. They might not show it to their non-Muslim friends, but in the mosques, in the privacy, behind closed doors, inside of the families gathering, among Muslims only, this is the only accepted point of view, is to be pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, and for the destruction of the Israel and the Jews. And let's not be fooled.
Okay, so I have to ask, how does it feel when people are not listening to you and thinking that, well, you probably were just in an extreme group and you think all Muslims are like?
Sorry, I didn't understand the end.
How does it feel when people tell you that they don't believe you? They might think that, well, you come from a biased opinion, a subjective opinion, where you probably were just in a very extreme fringe group of Muslims, and not all Muslims think like this.
Oh, I was not in a fringe group. In fact, I lived very far from. Most of the time, I lived in cities where there was not a big community of Muslims. I was not surrounded by them all the time. But inside of my family, we were quite moderate. I never was forced to wear the hijab. It's like a very North African traditional kind of, you know, it's watered down on so many levels. So it's like the main population of Muslims that are, you know, that you can find anywhere, like living peacefully from the outside. So it's not I was not like part of the Salafism, or you know, this is what the common Islam was for most of Sunnis. So they would say that they carry values that are compatible with the with the Western world, like some people like Tariq Ramadan held as a possibility, as an identity.
Until he starts raping women and went to jail.
Exactly. See, that rape is again, even if it's not jihad, they still do it. It's a kind of jihad, in fact. But yeah, I mean, those people that you might, the probability to have a moderate Sunni like me around, in the West, for non-Muslims, is very high. This is the majority I was in. Nothing particular, very Sunni, plain Islam, not original at all, not a certain sect or anything. So to me, I'm able to speak about, we were watching Al Jazeera. Like, Al Jazeera is the main media of influence. We were watching Iqra, which is the religious channel made by Saudi Arabia and the UAE to, promote Sunnism. And Tariq Ramadan was on that channel too. But Amr Khalid, who was like a very big Sunni guru, but you would watch him. He was not dressed like the sheikhs, in old school sheikhs clothes. He was just suit and tie, and very well, very charismatic, very modern, very neat. Like, you couldn't tell that he was a Muslim. But Amr Khalid was like a pre-Tariq Ramadan, and he was we used to watch him a lot. He would talk about, preaching on TV, like almost a Protestant Christian, but in an Islamic version. So this was like the main thing. I wasn't original at all. So to me, it's what Al Jazeera said, what Amr Khalid, Tariq Ramadan stood for was clearly pro Hamas, pro Jews, destruction. What can I say? It's my it's my experience now. I know it's an individual. I'm only one person, but I still have to deal with Muslims around me. I still know what they think. Living the religion doesn't mean that I have to leave all my Muslim contacts and family that is still Muslim. So I'm still in it. I'm still watching what is said. And lately, I've just filtered my social media from people who were not condemning Hamas or even supporting the attacks. So yeah, it's still going on. It's not because I left Islam that I stopped in 2017. It's not because I stopped being a Muslim that I don't know what's going on in the Muslim sphere, because most of people, they don't know that I left. So you're kind of an undercover spy sometimes, and the speech and the mindset hasn't changed since I left. Still the same. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, I appreciate you very much, and I think a lot of people do. And you're very valuable, when it comes to that, right? Whereas you have a very golden opportunity of kind of living in two worlds at once, right? And not many people have this opportunity. But it's interesting what you say about Saudi, because I try to explain to people that even if the GCC countries, they say they want to go modern, doesn't take away Islam from them, because at the one hand, right, they will say that in their countries, there's peace, but that doesn't go against the Sharia, because as long as you have peace in your country, then yeah, you can be welcoming, you can be inviting, and you don't have to be that strict because you're under Darul Islam, right? It's supposed to be that way, so you can afford to have these Abraham Accords, but then simultaneously you fuel this narrative of spreading dawah across the world, and those same people that are sponsored by these countries are very much against Israel. They fuel the Jew hatred, right? So this what do you call that TV station that you were watching as a young
Oh, Al Jazeera and also Iqra,
No,
which is
Ikra, yeah.
yeah,
Al Jazeera is
Qaino.
Qatar, yeah, but Ikra, yeah. Ikra is very much. I don't know if they still exist today. Maybe they changed names, but there's plenty of them. Like Hassan, what's his name? Not Hassan. Asa Al Hakim. No, wait. Uh, like Huda TV, right? I wanted to show a clip from Huda TV. No, where they from, but there's plenty of them. Uh, Asim Al Hakim, right? I think he is Saudi, right? But he lives in Indonesia. Uh, and he like there's so many of these TV stations that are promoting Dawah and Islam worldwide that are sponsored by the GCC countries. And this is something that people don't understand. That with one hand they invite you, with the other one they stab you. it's, I mean, it's very much what Takia is about, what Sharia is about. What I mean, it's spreading. It's so ingrained, and honestly, I don't know if it really comes from the 7th century because it's today so sophisticated. It seems like they have taken so much, or maybe it's just a, a mutual exchange, but they have taken so much from the Soviet disinformation manuscript. No matter if they're allies or not, but it's disinformation. It is censorship. It is spreading propaganda uh, and confusion all at once, and smiling in the faces. I mean, this is I guess this is the main point. Smiling in the faces at your enemies while your heart cursed them.
Yeah, I mean, this is if we get people to realize that Islam is a problem, I mean, we would make a very big step forward. Um, I don't know what to add to that. I mean, that will solve so many problems. Like it will give them one less reason to behave like they behave. I mean, there's still pan-Arabism. There's still, political tensions. Uh, that at least will cut one of the heads of the monster. The biggest one, I think, the ideological one, the one that is like an umbrella for everything, for any hate, any political goal, any yeah, the central part. But you know returning about the Hamas thing, even when you talk to Jews and you tell them Islam is problematic, it was hard. I came across people who said, "Oh no, we're not addressing the religion. It's a religion like ours." So
Yeah,
even if they have they see the horror and they see the problem, they grew up with it. They still don't want to point out the source of it. So it's
yeah.
sometimes it's
Muslims
really
are our
annoying.
cousins. Yeah, yeah. It's very
Exactly.
annoying.
That speech is
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I don't wanna go on that narrative right now, but I do wanna address it in the future because it really bothers me. There's a lot of things that I think you can criticize Israel for, and this Jewish narrative of Muslims are our cousin for, and talking about how like Israel actually let themselves be played, even though they should know better. But I think that criticism might not be the time for that right now. I mean, yeah, I mean we criticize it enough as we do. I mean, at least I do. That's not taking away that I do fully support Israel, and you know I love Jews and all that. but if I come from an outside and criticize the Jewish narrative, it might come off wrong. And so I like to I like to say that in the future, if let's put it as constructive criticism from my point of view. You don't have to take it, but this is how I feel. I think Israel is on the wrong path, and sometimes I think a lot of Jews have learned wrong lessons in history and also been um, also been uh, so what's the word they've been
Manipulated or
I would say manipulated by their own religious mantras or religious upbringing
You
many
know,
times.
people, once you say you believe in a god, they think that it gives them, the same values as they hold automatically. Like, oh, you believe in God, you have a certain set of morality that is compatible with mine. So they tend to see atheists are as immoral when we are telling, the cold truth. We are analyzing the problem. So it's not because someone else believes in a god that he holds the same values. So that's why I talk about values, not religions, because when you forget about Allah, you just see coldly the values of Islam, the normalized violence, the Jew hatred. There's no difference with Nazism. So they have that filter in front of their eyes. It's not because someone believes in a God that he will get along with you. That's it. That they can be an immoral God like Allah, of course.
Yeah, the word I was looking for was seduced, but you're right. And yes, this whole narrative of worshiping Allah alone, I mean, sometimes I want to play a prank on the Muslim street preachers and go up and say, hey, you know what, you worship Allah alone? And they say yes. I'm gonna be like, all right, you know what, I'm convinced, I want to worship Allah alone. Can I take my shahada? And then as they're about to give me the shahada, I'm like, wait a minute, you said Allah alone. Why are you speaking about Muhammad? This is not Allah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to go now.
All right. All right.
And thank you for this live, although I was annoyed by my son
That's
at some
fine. That's
point.
fine.
I'm
That's
sorry for
fine.
the silence, but
That's fine.
yeah, I appreciate, and I hope will be more people and different point of views. Maybe bring some. If we, I think it's gonna be a rough week, a rough months. Many events, many maybe tragic ones too. So if you do a live again, I think we should try to find someone who's living there, or representing the Jewish community. That could be interesting as well.
For sure. For sure. And again, I thank you so much for coming in and participating with me on this. As you see, I'm not that popular these days, so I really much appreciate you.
Oh,
So thank
fame
you so
comes
much.
and goes. It will come back soon.
Yeah. Well, all right. So if you have to go, you can go. But I like to, before I close up, I found this little video uh, that I like to play, um, and it's called "Why Allah Does Not Support Us and Give Victory to Palestinians" from Huda TV. Dr. Muhammad Salah answers. Now, this guy is, I mean, just if you look at the guy, I'm not gonna spoil it. Just gonna play it. It's gonna, I think it's gonna be fun to listen to.
Why isn't the victory yet given to the Palestinians? What is the
Thank
reason
you.
behind their
Thank you.
failure?
Got it. Yassine, I got your question. And I got it from the beginning. But I don't want the viewers to be confused. That you've talked about so many things. You're actually venting. You're talking about how do you feel, your frustrations. And there is no question. Now, the question is specific. How come Allah doesn't support us? Right? That is the question. And the story begins as follows. Allah the Almighty says, وَلَيَنْصُرَنَّ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ. Most certainly Allah will grant victory to those who adhere to His deen, who practice His deen, who belong to the deen properly. When this ummah, whether the ummah at large or any community in any particular country, striving to practice the deen, Allah grants them victory. And Surah Al-Baqarah says not only for us, but the believers before us, the story of Prophet David and Jalut and Talut. And what did they say? كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله والله مع الصابرين. The believers said, yeah, we're certain we will overcome the enemies. Why? It happens a lot. Small party defeats and overcome a large volume, a bigger army, a huge enemies by the leave of Allah. And indeed, Allah is with the patient ones. So, you make an effort, you stick to your deen, Allah grants you victory over your enemies, regardless how many are they. What kind of army, equipments, and weapons they may possess. On the Battle of Badr, Muslims were only 314. And they utterly defeated an army of 1,000. And they arrested among them 70. They've taken with them 70 prisoners of war. So an army defeated an army which is 3 times bigger than them, have much more weapons and means of war. Muslims were very weak. On the Battle of Uhud, Allah granted Muslims victory in the beginning, even though they were only 700 and the Meccans were 3,000, and Muslims started collecting the spoils. Because a group of them disobeyed the command of the Prophet ﷺ, they lost everything. And 70 of the companions were martyred. It's a balanced equation. You know, in chemistry, when you go to the lab and you put some reactants together in a specific conditions, then you expect the results not change the same all the time. You are a good Muslim, you're doing your level best, Allah will grant you victory over your enemies all the time throughout the history of Islam. Now, we as Muslims, we just need to be practicing Muslims. There are a lot of violations. We have distanced ourselves away from the deen of Allah big time. Riba, we deal with riba. Prostitution, it is happening. Serving and selling alcohol in all Muslim countries, with the exception of a few. On all Muslim airlines, with the exception of a few. Shirk happening a lot. But when you find a group of people who are defending the Holy Lands, Allah gives them victory. Oh, but also we have a lot of Muslims who die all the time. Allah says in the Quran, إِن تَكُونُوا تَأْلَمُونَ فَإِنَّهُمْ يَأْلَمُونَ كَمَا تَأْلَمُونَ وَتَرْجُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَرْجُونَ. Do you think war, that you kill and you capture prisoners of war and you don't get touched, you're not harmed? No. It's al-ayyamu dual. You achieve victory and sometimes you lose. And the more you adhere to the deen of Allah, immediately the help of Allah is with you. We have seen some Muslim countries as of today supporting Israel over their fellow Muslims. We have seen some Muslim countries condemning Muslims who are being killed, women, children, elders, masajid being bombarded. And you see Muslim countries still not even regarding the prisons of Muslims. If they were not Muslims, who should have supported them? Because they're innocent. It is their properties, their lands, and you can never target civilians. You should not do that in Islam. But this is a condition of the Ummah. If Allah distributes victory simply because you say I'm Muslim, but that is not true. And that's why during the life of the Prophet ﷺ, the one time that the Ummah, a group of the Sahaba, they neglected the command of the Prophet ﷺ, immediately they lost. Even though Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was in their midst, it's a message from Allah. You fulfill what Allah has commanded you, you abstain from what Allah has forbidden you, Allah delivers victory. But over the Romans, over the Persians, over the communists, over the capitalists, over any power on earth, it's as simple as that. And don't forget, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that you will be tested as believers, as those who were before us were tested. حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله ألا إن نصر.
So every time he speaks something from the Quran, he has to amplify the voice because it's so majestic. Yeah. I don't know what to say about that other than that your Quran is bullcrap.
Indeed, Allah's victory is near. You need to be patient and you need to study the seerah. If you study the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, from the day that he was commissioned with the prophethood to his
the same seerah where Muhammad was trapped in his mother's womb for 4 years because they didn't know who his dad was.
Death, you would never need to ask this question. Barakallahu fikum. But I would like to take advantage of this question and ask you all to keep praying for our brothers and sisters. Last Sunday, I asked you to fast on Monday, and at the time of breaking your fast, to pray for the Palestinians, to pray for those, the custodians of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, those who are guarding our first Qibla. Ask Allah to help them and support them. Let's continue doing so.
Doesn't seem like Allah cares. Maybe it's a test of Allah to withstand the bombs of the Israelis after they are furious by Hamas terror attacks. Maybe. I think it was funny though, like this whole show of why is Allah cursing us? Why isn't He giving us victories? Like, well, you just have to be patient. Allah is testing you, and it's the global responsibility of the Ummah. And you see how the Ummah is corrupted. Yeah, maybe it's just me who find that funny. Anyway, so since he talked about the Quran and made it so majestic, I have a Quran verse of my own. And after that, I'm gonna shut down this live stream. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. So take care, and let's hope that Israel will have a swift justice, and then anybody who dares to try to do anything like Hamas did ever again.
واضربوهن فإن واضربوهن النساء الله كان عليما الله كان وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب واضربوهن النساء